Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about PlayStation because apparently, according to some new leaks and some new rumors, Sony is about to buy Warner Bros. Games, and this seems like such a catastrophically stupid idea, but mostly because I have to admit that I'm becoming increasingly against acquisitions. It feels like just a couple years back, around 2020, every company was trying to buy stuff up. Embracer Group did the Pac-Man and just waka ate up everything. Sony bought a bunch of stuff. Xbox bought a bunch of stuff like Bethesda, but it does feel like a bunch of studios that end up getting acquired suck immediately after. Like Bethesda, they get bought by Xbox, they put out Starfield and Redfall, some of the lowest rated Bethesda games of all time. Even think about when it comes to PlayStation. What is PlayStation buying? Oh yeah, Bungie, who's pretty much at their lowest point ever. Oh, what was that other game? Firewalk, Concord, which put out Concord and then immediately got shut down. A lot of times, whatever magic it takes to buy these companies seems to immediately tank them. But let's talk about the Warner Brothers deal and look at the rumor, because I have to admit that this truly, even in the bare math, makes no sense. Let me explain. Hi, I am DreamcastGuy. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, so I legitimately checked this like 4 separate times before filming just to make sure this is legit, because it is such a strange move. But Sony is interested in buying Warner Brothers Games assets. Now, all the replies, of course, are no. Look, there is less and less stuff that's multi-platform. It does feel like every time these companies get bought up, they start going exclusive. Like, not with Xbox. Xbox, even when they do buy stuff, they still end up putting it on PlayStation, putting it on PC. But if Sony owns it, since Sony at this point is almost entirely making their money off PlayStation and nothing else, I do think there's a good chance they're just going to put it all on PlayStation and nothing else. No, goodbye Lego multi-platform games. There goes all the multi-platform games. They're going to lock this down. Do not. A lot of people are pointing out the fact that Warner Brothers has a strange history. Things like making the really good Lord of the Rings games and then making the Nemesis system and then never, ever putting it anywhere ever again. Let me talk about this. The reason this rumor I think is so interesting is that just yesterday, Warner Brothers talked about the fact that they're trying to divide themselves into divisions, that they want to just be these 4 chunks of content. Now, it's weird to think about the fact that Warner Brothers owns Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, and the DC Universe. They're basically saying, okay, we want these franchises to be our pillars of content. Now, some people seem to forget, where is Lord of the Rings? I mean, they made those really good Shadow of Mordor games. They made the worst game of all time, Gollum. Where is Lord of the Rings now? Well, some people seem to forget this, but they sold it. They sold it for $400 million to Embracer Group. So now, even if you did buy Warner Brothers Games, you're not really getting, in my opinion, the most valuable thing of all, which is Lord of the Rings. Game of Thrones at this point, I feel like, is way less valuable. Mortal Kombat, the most recent Mortal Kombat, what is it even called? I'm actually forgetting. Is it Mortal Kombat 12 or Mortal Kombat 11? Whatever that new Mortal Kombat game, I saw a bunch of fans are mad. They've already killed it. Typically with Mortal Kombat games, you get multiple seasons of new content and updates and characters. They killed off the new Mortal Kombat game almost immediately, which makes me think that A, it probably sold bad, and B, I do think there's a good chance that that is related to this acquisition. Typically, before your studio gets bought, it's very, very common that you just announce stuff. You say, oh, we're working on this project. We're working on this thing. And the purpose of that isn't necessarily to get the game going. It's because it increases the value. I mean, even Bungie did this before they got bought. They went, oh, we're hiring a bunch of people because we're maybe working on Destiny 3. Oh, we're working on Project Gummy Bears. That stuff increases the value, so the acquiring company pays more. I think that, honestly, they killed Mortal Kombat so they could say, oh, we're working on the next mysterious NetherRealms project. Even more money, please. But here's the part that makes me actually believe these leaks. Let me talk about where the source comes from. SE Scoops. Now, I'm going to sound like a crazy person, but I dug into this. SE Scoops is predominantly a wrestling website, but they have all sorts of insider information about different studios. And they do have a lot of insider info specifically about Warner Bros. They talked about inside deals and stuff way before they're publicly revealed. So if anybody's going to know, I'm not surprised that they know. I think at the very, very least, even if this deal doesn't fully go through, I 100% believe that those early acquisition talks are absolutely in the works. Now, again, people in the comments are pointing out, I doubt it. I think it's too expensive for Sony. This time, really. I know. People could always say Sony can't afford stuff, but I think this is the kind of acquisition that could cost around $20 billion. Now, Sony has just recently did a big investor talk where they said they've made more money with the PlayStation 5 than any previous generation of PlayStation, which I have to admit is still very, very strange to me. PlayStation 5 has had less exclusives, less hype, less raw excitement, and yet somehow it just continues to make tens of billions of dollars. So, if for some reason they did decide to buy this, I think they could technically afford it, but it does feel like spending all the money in your bank account to buy a car. Even if you can technically do it, you really, really shouldn't. Bring back Cartoon Network, make cartoons good again, Johnny Bravo revival. This is what's interesting, is that a lot of people are talking about stuff that I feel like Sony definitely wouldn't do. People talking about Cartoon Network, people talking about talking about Lord of the Rings. It's wild to me because I do think that a lot of people don't even realize that the value of Warner Brothers right now is just in the brands. It's not even the developers. It's not even their streaming services. It is just purely, hey, we want to own Mortal Kombat. Hey, we want to own Harry Potter forever. Sony is reportedly interested in buying Warner Bros. Games' streaming and studio assets, which would be HBO Max, various IPs, and all of their gaming assets. This report comes after Warner Bros. Split itself into streaming, studios, global networks, Warner Bros. Games, and is restructuring based around those main gaming franchises. This, to me, I do think these talks are happening, but I think what's probably going to happen in the end is they're just going to buy a big stake of it. Last year, there was a similar sort of deal where there was early talks that maybe possibly Sony was going to try to buy the parent company above From Software. The company that owns From Software, who makes all the Dark Souls games, obviously, and Elden Ring, it's actually an anime company. And they're basically like, okay, we're going to buy that company called Kurokawa, and then we'll own Elden Ring as well. But at the last second, they went, actually, we just want to own like 10% of it. So we don't have to make any decisions, but we get 10% of all your profit forever. I think there is a bigger chance that Sony's just going to do that, where Sony's just going to roll in and say, we want a little bit of all the HBO Max money. We want all the Harry Potter money. We want all the money from the Game of the Thrones RTS, but we don't want to have to do any work. We don't want to have to do anything except for pay and take money. I just feel like, from my point of view, and maybe I'm going to sound really negative here, Sony feels like they are very badly mismanaging their studios for this entire console generation. It feels like the actual games that are coming out have gone down to a trickle, an absolute trickle. And it feels like that's because of bad management. It does feel like, for whatever reason, Sony just doesn't have that fire into their asses anymore to make good PlayStation games. And more studios, more developers, more people under the PlayStation umbrella, I don't think it's going to instantly fix it. But these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts. How do you feel about this deal? Does this even feel real? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. My God. Sony buying everything except the will to live.